Yeah, first thing I want to say, good to see you all. Thank you for having me. But from my time in events, there was some people who used to give shout-outs to advertisers to get freebies. And I just want to distance myself from that sort of behaviour. I think using that position to your personal advantage is wrong. I want to state that. But the burger van is outside and it's serving. So in half an hour when I finish, go and get your burgers, go get your chips, go and get your drinks. I hope they can hear me, and who knows. So God bless the burger van. So yeah, I'm going to do a short, light-hearted presentation because I thought, what's worse to kill the mood than to do a half an hour talk on finances? So I've tried to just lighten it up a bit so that we can have a bit of a giggle, but there's some serious points interwoven in there that I hope we can resonate to and get value from. That's the main thing. I want to get you some value from today. And maybe, just maybe, if it sparks a conversation, I would gladly have that over a coffee, over a burger, over a foot long from the burger van outside, if I've not mentioned it before. There are other burger vans available. Well, there isn't. That's the only one. So make sure you stack up there. I think I've done enough to earn a free bag of chips. Who knows? I know no bounds when food is concerned. Okay, get on with it, Tim. Don't waffle. Already spent a minute talking about the burger van. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a session on our finances at the movies. It might be a bit corny in places, but hopefully you get the value and you get the message. So our first one is Gone with the Wind. And this is probably, most of the people I talk to about finances, they say, I get paid on Friday, it's gone by Sunday. It's gone with the wind. Completely disappeared. And that's one of the first things I want to kind of launch is the whole thing about learning how our finance works and how we can make the most of it. And now most of us are paid monthly. We can be paid at the end of the month. In fact, there's a thing in sales where that part of the month is where they do the most sales because people have got the most money. So, get paid on Friday, gone by Sunday. And the sad thing about getting caught in that trap is sometimes when I talk to people about that financial management system, they can say, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Because as long as the bills are paid, existence happens. But that does lead to problems that we'll talk to. And sometimes they ask about a financial hero, a millionaire coming from nowhere. So again, maybe some of us relate to that we feel like our finances are gone with the wind. They disappear. It goes in one ear, out the other. It goes into our bank account and then straight out, like a hole in the fridge. Okay, so that's film number one, Gone with the Wind, if anybody can relate to that. Number two, I've changed it slightly. Honey, I've shrunk the bank account. Now, the thing is with a bank account, when we have money in it, it gives us a capacity to buy. And our capacity to buy is governed by how big or how small our bank account is. So, what does our bank account look like? Or does it feel as if it's shrinking? Our capacity to invest, our capacity to make good decisions for our future is also governed by that bank account. And if that bank account shrinks, so does our ability to buy. One thing I talk about a lot is that a lot of people live in a world where we'd rather sacrifice our long-term security for our short-term gratification. A story about a couple I met. They said, what's important to us is that our kids get to university. So we put a plan together and we worked out how much it would be to do what their goal would say. The next time I saw them, they said, we've just bought a brand new car because our old one was 2 years old. And they sacrificed long-term security for their children against that short-term gratification of having a new car when there was nothing wrong with their old car. Now, there is a technical term for this restriction of a capacity to buy. And it's all related to inflation and deflation. You've probably heard the term inflation. But what inflation does, as the economy changes and it's more expensive every year, every month to buy something, what happens is our ability to buy decreases. So here's something for you. If you put your money into a bank account at 3% for, say, 10 years, what will happen is your money that you take back out will be worth less than the 10,000 you put in. And that's the effect of inflation and deflation. So even if you think, I'm going to be good with my money, I'm going to put it all in the bank, you'll still shrink your bank account. And so what I like to teach, because I'm a financial educator, is techniques on how to grow your money, how to make the money that you work so hard for actually start working for you. And there's some basic investment things we could talk about that will help you make the most of your money. And something's happened to the screen. It has, or has it just gone into sleep mode? It's check your cable. Oh, it's back. Thank you. So just check. Yep. So the next film is The Greatest Showman. And again, we've probably seen some of this. And again, I've used the expression keeping up with the Joneses because my last name is Jones. And I can tell you, probably not worth keeping up with, if the truth be told. But there is that thing in our life when we feel that our finance, the pressure to keep up with other people, the pressure to make sure that we have what everyone else has. Whatever that looks like. It could be the latest holiday. It could be the car that we drive. It could be the way we spend money. But there's a pressure that comes with that. And the problem is if our finances are limited or we've got other commitments, that pressure can help us to make bad decisions in an attempt to be the greatest showman. There's a social pressure that comes with our finances, more so in the Western world than anywhere else. The pressure, the pressure to be part of the haves and not the have-nots. The pressure to have the latest technology. The pressure to have the latest upgrade, the latest phone. And the advertisers prey on that. You've got an iPhone, that's an iPhone 15, an iPhone 1. The pressure to have the latest upgrade. And the people-pleasing aspect to keeping up. And sometimes I've been into a bar and everyone buys around, everyone does this. And it sometimes brings a pressure onto somebody who may not be able to afford it to keep up with that greatest showman. I told you about a couple who bought a new car and they couldn't afford it. I was at another event when they attended, but I was sitting with other people. And this couple came in and with all their finery and they looked quite affluent. But I knew their financial situation. But somebody on the table leaned forward to me and said, see that couple over there? And I said, yeah, I've noticed them. They said, they're giving it the big one with their finances, but we all know they're as poor as church mice. And even though they were trying to social please and show that they were okay and that they were doing well, everybody knew actually that they were struggling. So sometimes the people we try to please, we don't actually please them at all, but we end up getting into a more difficult financial situation. And again, if this resonates with you, it's good to have a chat and a talk on strategies where we can get out of that. And again, we can get your finance working for you rather than trying to please other people. Film number 4, Buy Hard. Forgive me, I've changed an immortal name of an immortal film. Buy Hard. You know the film I'm referring to, Die Hard, I love it. And just out there, I'm going to put this out there, it is a Christmas film. It is official, it is a Christmas film. My wife would argue the toss, she'd take me outside and give me a good idea, but it is a good film. Right, Buy Hard. Now this is a big thing because some of the clients I come into contact with, they impulsively purchase things. They go into a thing and I've got to have that, I've got to have that. And advertisers work off impulsive buying. The fact that if they produce it in a certain way, that we'll buy it, we'll want to have it. They'll make it look good, whether it's food, whether it's technology, whether it's clothing. And if we're trying to get ourselves into a financial stable place that will help us in our future, impulsive purchasing will always work against us. There is a motto that you never shop when you're hungry. And that's why, because you see something, you're hungry, I'll buy that. You probably never get to eat it. It'll probably sit in your fridge for 3 months. But when you're hungry, you make worse shopping decisions than when you're not. And it's the same with comfort purchasing. When we feel bad about ourselves, buying that new set of clothes, buying a new car, buying a new computer, makes you feel good. It releases endorphins in you. But actually, again, we talked about it in the last slide, that short-term gratification can have long-term consequences. It can damage our financial future, but we have a trail of impulse purchases. I'm pretty good at not making impulse purchases, but I do have my weaknesses, and I can spend in those. So I've got to learn that about myself and learn that the comfort purchases that make me feel good about myself today actually are not going to make me feel good about myself tomorrow. And again, I want to build into my future as well as my today. No budget events. What I want to mean by that is, so when we go for a Christmas, we don't have a budget for Christmas necessarily, but we've got to buy for Auntie Rita, and we've got to buy for Uncle Bob, and we've got to buy for this and buy for that. And before long, we put it on credit cards, and in the January, we see just the effect of how Christmas has affected us. Now, we all enjoy Christmas, but when we approach an event in our lives and have no budget, it can have long-term consequences. And in fact, credit card companies bank on the fact that you will spend so much on Christmas, you'll spend the whole year paying it back. And when you get your credit card clear, what do? You buy on next year's Christmas. And that's the danger of no budget events that can give you difficulty in Buy Hard. Right. I'm determined to get into my 20 minutes quarter now. Titanic. Oh, how many remember Titanic? Some of the people are not going to be old enough to remember that. My heart will go on. The Titanic film, it was labelled the unsinkable. Sometimes in our finances, we can have stable jobs, stable incomes, and we think we're pretty unsinkable. But as with the film, the biggest iceberg in the financial world is the iceberg of debt. And sometimes the iceberg can be bigger under the water than you see that's visible. And one thing I know is that people who have obvious debt or hidden debt can often find that that's the iceberg that will sink any ship. And when I'm talking to people about their financial plans and their financial goals, the thing that will sink them, the things that will delay them, the things that will drag them back is always debt. And again, our financial institutions rely on you being in debt to pay their wages. And so if we can teach the way to flip that round so we can accelerate the debt, get rid of it quickly, whether it's credit cards, store cards, mortgages, whatever it may be, then that brings you to your financial freedom a lot sooner. So the iceberg of debt, that can always sink your ship. And again, I don't want to put anyone under pressure, but if debt is a major thing, then do talk to somebody, because there are ways to get it sorted and get it dealt with. The worst thing is living with it, living with the shame, living with the consequences. And you will make other people richer in your life through your hard work if you're in debt, and that person won't be you. So if you can deal with debt and get a plan together, that will help you. Right, moving on to number 6. Mission Impossible. Dun, 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 dun. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Don't worry, I'm not going to explode. Although if I have burger and chips at the chip van outside, I may explode. Have I mentioned the chip van outside? I think I've given it enough plugging. But Mission Impossible. One of the Mission Impossible things I deal with people is creating a budget. It sounds harsh, it sounds severe. A lot of people run away from it. But the biggest danger I find in our finances and our lives is not having a plan. And if you have a plan for your finances, you can then get your money working for you, walking towards your plan, your goal, your dream, your ambition. And often, if you say, I haven't got the ability to do that, that's why people like me, finances coaches, exist, to get the right people alongside you to help you form that plan, to help you get to where you want to be financially. I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but these financial things don't sort themselves out. If you leave them long enough, they won't. So, again, having a plan that helps you achieve what you want to do with your finances, I think is one of the most important things, even though it might be difficult. Mission Impossible. Okay, film number 7, Home Alone. How many have seen Home Alone at Christmas? Home Alone. Child gets left on his own by accident by uncaring parents not counting their children properly. Sorry, that's me being cynical. But the unexpected happens in our lives. We have to cater in the unexpected, because even if you have the best finance plan available and you've got it all sorted and you think we're going to put this here and that there and it's all going to work, one thing life actually throws up at us is the unexpected. How do we cope if we get an unexpected bill for £5,000? How do we cope if our income changes and goes down? How do we cope if our mortgage goes up? And our whole nation has struggled with the cost of living crisis and mortgages because they've not built in how to cope with those changes. And it can bring a sense of panic, like Kevin in the film. It brings in a sense of panic. What do we do if our life circumstances change and affect us in a way that we're not prepared for? We always teach having and setting up an emergency fund. To have a pot of money in our planning, that if the freezer breaks down, if the car breaks down, if something goes wrong, you have something to cope with that and not derail you from the plan you have. And if nothing goes wrong, you've got extra money in your bank account. But building an emergency fund is a practical tip I would give you to help you in some things. That's the only bad thing about using your phone as a remote, is people phone you in the middle of presentations. Okay, film number 8, Back to the Future. Probably my favourite film, one of the favourite films of all time. And if you've seen the Back to the Future, especially in the second and third ones, the whole thing is about how something can happen in your past that will then have a knock-on effect in your future. So in Back to the Future, they try to take a book back to help them raise lots of money. It gets stolen, and somebody else uses that, and it changes the whole of the lifestyle of the people in the future. And while that's fictional, it has a relevance of truth, that the small decisions we make today can often affect you financially in your future. So it has a knock-on effect. It has a knock-on effect of when you retire. It has a knock-on effect of what house you live in, what cars you drive, all because of the decisions you make today. So somebody once told me, they told me in my 40s that if at 16 I'd put away £5 a week into an investment in the stock market, then I would have £1 million in my bank account when I was 60. The only problem with that information was, why didn't you tell me when I was 16? Because I'd have done it, and I'd probably be a bit thinner as well. But what I like to encourage you, it doesn't matter when you start, if you make small changes to your financial habits and lifestyle, it can have a long-term effect that will help you in the future. Whether it's for you, whether it's for your children, your family, that the small things that we do can have a long-term effect. So again, what would you tell yourself? I'd tell myself to start investing at 16 if I could go back in time. But I'm learning that lesson and saying, well, if I implement it now, it's going to have an effect on my future. So what decisions can you make today or think about that may be small, but have a long-term and a big impact on your future? All right, film number 9. Boom. Spend it like Beckham. Oh, I had to do it. Spend it like Beckham. Again, if you studied the football analogy of the film, but also of David Beckham, you'll find that David Beckham was a dedicated footballer. He'd arrive an hour before, leave an hour after. He would train. Sometimes we need to have a dedication to make our finances suit us. Have a clear goal in mind. How can we hit things with our finances if we have no idea what we want to do? So one of the first things I do in my coaching is just try to find the goals and dreams, because there's no point making a change if you're doing a change for no reason. But if you're changing something because you have that medium-term or a long-term goal, it will give you more impetus to make changes to make that happen. Have some strong mentors. David Beckham will tell you that he had some strong mentors in his life that helped him with his career. Same with our finances. Sometimes we have to have people who will help us to make good decisions, to think those things through. And also knowing what you want. If you've seen the interviews with David Beckham, he said, all I ever wanted to be was a footballer that played for Man United. And that was his driving force. Now, you might not be a footballer, you might not have that, but what is your goal and dream? Why is it you would work so hard? What is it you want to achieve? Because if you're doing it for nothing, it's not going to be very fulfilling, and you'll make potentially bad financial decisions. But if your financial decisions are governed by your dedication and the clear goal you have in mind, it will help you towards your destiny. And the last film I'm going to bring... Ooh, I'm stuck a little bit. There you go. Ooh. Oh, it stopped. You might need to give it a... Thank you. It's a Wonderful Life. When you have your finances sorted, when you have a plan and that starts working itself through, you should then have enough to live on. But also, not just living and surviving, you should have enough to fuel your dream, whatever your dream is. I've had all sorts of dreams from all sorts of clients, and one of the satisfying ones, as odd as it was, he wanted to go to the World Beard Championships in New Zealand. And when I got to rebook his appointment, he'd actually gone to New Zealand to do that because he got his finances in order. And that was his dream. Now, we've all got different goals and dreams, but without a plan, they may be delayed, watered down, or they may never happen. Your plan might be for later life security. A lot of people are. And I say this with a lot of respect. When I go to Tesco's or Asda's and I see... older people pushing trolleys or working on the checkouts, that's not because they said, one day, when I retire, I want to work for Asda. It's because they found that their retirement pot was not big enough and they had to carry on earning. And so if we get those things right, it helps us live a better quality of life in our later life. And one of the biggest things for some people is leaving a legacy. What are we going to leave for our children or our grandchildren? I'd like to think if I make good financial choices, my grandkids, none of which have been born yet, may say, thank you, Grandad, for those choices you've made, because that made our life a little bit easier. And I'm not just going to leave them money, but I'm going to hopefully give them an education so that they can leave it to their grandchildren as well. So what is the legacy that we're going to leave behind? And that doesn't happen by accident, unless we win a lottery somewhere. It happens by good planning. So in summary and in conclusion, and I've been 20 minutes and plugged the burger van, that's not bad. So in conclusion, 4 Ps. If you're going to change your financial future, sometimes you have to go through a short-term pinch. Tighten your wallets, tighten your belts, not because it's good to save money. It's because you're working towards a bigger plan and a bigger dream for tomorrow. Secondly, have that long-term purpose established. And if I was to sit down and have an appointment with each and every one of you, that would be the thing. What is your purpose? What's the goal? What is it you want to achieve? What do you want your money to work towards and sort out? Third, have an effective plan. How are you going to get from where you are to where you want to be? And that's part of an easy part, what you need to put away. How you can get your money working for you. I often talk about investments, and people say, oh, I don't know, I'll lose money on the stock exchange. If you have the right education, the variations in the stock exchange, you can get them to work for you, not against you. And in fact, we have people in banks that are earning millions of pounds because they understand those simple rules. So have an effective plan. How are you going to get from where you are to where you want to be? And fourthly, have goal protection. What happens if something changes? We talked about the emergency fund. What happens if your income changes or your health changes or, God forbid, something worse happens? What have you got there to protect you and your family to still ensure that the goal, the dream still happens? And that's an important talking point as well. And all being well, if we take action, if we get the plans and purposes in place for our finance, my heart and my desire is that people will live happily ever after. And again, their finance work for them rather than them working for their finances. So that's been 10 films on finance. I hope you find that engaging. I hope that you found some value. And if anybody wants to chat or to make an appointment to chat and have some financial coaching, that's what I'm here for. So have a great day, and I'll hand over and I'll go out to the burger van that's situated conveniently outside and, yes, see if there's any chips. That would be a good thing. Yay to chips and a foot-long sausage. And no, that sounds wrong. That sounded very wrong. Scrub that. Take that off the video. Okay. Have a great day, and there'll be somebody appearing in another 10 minutes. But if you want to ask any questions as well, then do feel free. Thanks a lot for your time.